This past Thursday, just 1 week ago, there were two guys who went to shopping Lichvot Shabbat in a kosher supermarket, and they passed by the meat stand that they have in the stores, and they struck a conversation with the Jewish salesman, who it turned out to be that he was the owner of this booth, of this section in the store. And the salesman sliced them a little thin piece of meat in order for them to taste, try to get them to buy. Slices them, they each taste, very good, very good. Then he slices them from another meat, another slice, just as thin. He says, "No, what do you think?" The guy looks at the meat, at the second piece of roast, it was about this big, and he says it was $31.99 was the price per pound. So he looks at it, and he tells the guy, "Yeah, listen, slice me a quarter of a pound." So the guy tells him, "I don't know anything about quarter pound. I know slices. Talk to me in slices." So he says, "Okay, give me 8 slices." This guy is thinking that 8 slices, based on the thickness that he cut the meat before, 8 slices would be, give or take, a quarter pound, maybe half a pound. He doesn't want to spend too much money. He turns to his friend, and he just continues schmoozing, and all of a sudden he sees this guy cutting pieces this thick, slice after slice. And he's looking, he says, maybe the guy understands that this is going to be a quarter of a pound at the end of the day, or maybe a little bit more, but it's not going to be so much. He's like, okay, you know what, it's going to be a little bit more than a pound. And he's watching him slice until he has a whole pile. That whole steak went from this big to this big. I know the person who it happened to. The guy takes it and he's like, "Ah, you wanted a quarter of a pound? This is about 2.5 pounds." And he's like, "And you're lucky, and I cut them thin." So takes them, he puts it in this big tray, and he puts it on the scale, and it wasn't even 2.5 pounds, it was 3.28 pounds. $104. The guy looks at it and he says, "I wanted a quarter of a pound. I'm going to pay for this. I don't want $104. He looks at this piece of meat, the entire roast. You could have sold me the entire roast." So he's like, "Can you take some off? I don't want it." The guy says, "I'm sorry, I can't take it off, because once I cut it, it's going to dry out. If I leave it here, nobody's going to buy it." So the question is, what should this guy do? Does he have to buy it, or does he not have to buy it? On the one hand, he asked for a quarter of a pound, and the guy sliced slices. Eventually, the guy told me that there were slices, some of them were even this thick, and some of them were like this, some of them were like that, but there was one even that thick. And the guy said, "I cut it thin." And he was very upset. What he ended up doing was he bought it with the money from Ma'asir. He had Ma'asir money in his pocket, and he spent it in order to not cause a fight. But the question he wants to know now, what should he have done? Is it okay that he used Ma'asir? Did he really owe this money? Because on the other hand, he saw the guy slicing it, and he went with it, and he didn't stop him. So that's the question. B'ezrat Hashem, next week we'll answer this question. Well, this is something you can discuss on the Shabbat table, get everybody worked up about such a story. That's the Maaseh Shehaya. Okay. In this week's parasha, in Parashat Beshalach, the Torah starts off the parasha, it says, Vayihi Beshalach. We know that the word Vayihi is usually in a time of sorrow, a time of tzara, that you say the word Vai. Like, oh, woe is to this person, vai. It's a way of crying. The Midrash says, who was saying vai? Paro was saying vai. Why? Because he let Bnei Israel leave. Says the Midrash, what was Paro complaining about? What could he have complained about? The Midrash brings a mashal. Mashal, there was a king, he had a son, his only son, and his son decided to travel the world, and he went to a very faraway city. He went there and he met this guy, happened to be a very wealthy guy, and he stayed by this wealthy guy. He stayed by him for a few months, and whatever you wanted, he got. The king one day decided that he missed his son, and he started looking for him. And he heard that he's staying by this fellow, this wealthy person in the city far away. So he starts sending him letters, and he puts money inside the envelopes, and he starts sending it to this wealthy man and say, listen, I am so happy that you're taking care of him. Give him everything, whatever it is, just continue, and so you shouldn't ever feel stingy about him. Here is money. I want him to be comfortable. And for a while, every few weeks, he was sending another envelope with another letter to this wealthy man, thanking him and sending him more money and saying, thank you for taking care of my son. At a certain point, the king started missing his son. He wanted to reconnect. And he started sending letters asking this wealthy man to give him his son some money and send him back home. The wealthy man saw this and ignored the letters. Letter by letter, he's ignoring it. The king sees that and he says, okay, I gotta go down myself. He goes with his army and with his ministers around him, and they go and they take the son away from this wealthy man, and they don't really give him much of a choice, and they take him away. Then the rich man starts crying and he says, oh, why did I let this boy go? Why did I let him go? As long as I had him, I was feeling important. I'm getting letters from the king. The king is I have something to do with the king. There's a dialogue. Paro was crying about the same thing. Until he let Bnei Israel go, he felt important. He felt that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is reaching to him. The city is flourishing because of the prophets that Bnei Israel bring in. Never mind the makot that came afterwards, but the makot, he still was able to be given honor. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu was still asking him, will you let my nation leave? Let my nation go. It's an honor. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving me such an honor. It's worth getting these makot. It's worth getting all these plagues in order to speak with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to get messages for that respect, for that honor that I'm getting from speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sometimes people go through a difficulty in life. That difficulty in life is a time when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is really reaching out to the person and he's saying, I want you to connect with me. Reconnect. I want to speak with you. And these are little messages. Those messages, we want to get out of them. We want to get out of that difficulty. But then a person, when he gets out of it, Be'ezrat Hashem, and he goes into a better situation, he still looks back and he says, but I remember in those times that I felt closer to Hashem. A person has to take advantage of every single opportunity that he is given in life. No matter no matter if it's difficult or no matter if it's easy. Because at all the time a person is going to look back and say, oh, I miss those days because those were the good old days. I felt more connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving wealth to a person, and every single thing that he does, he touches something, it turns into gold. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right there. He feels a certain connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, hopefully. And Chas v'Chalila, if he doesn't seize that moment, he might miss it in the future. Every person has to try to connect and to feel the Kedusha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving it to him, is trying to reach out to us all the time. And that way, we won't ever have to come to say Vai like Paro did. The Torah continues, it says, Vahi Beshalach Paro et ha'am, velo nacham Elohim derech eretz perishtim, ki karov hu. Pen yinachem ha'am, birotam milchama, v'shavu mitzrayma. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he took Paro, when Paro sent Bnei Israel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't lead them to Perishtim, to Eretz Israel. Rather, he went through the Midbar. Why? Because if you would go into Perishtim, they're going to come into wars right away, and they might regret leaving Mitzrayim, and they're going to turn back and go to Mitzrayim. We can ask a million questions. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who said you have to create a war? Make it that nobody will fight with Bnei Israel. Also, make the hearts of Bnei Israel stronger, that they should be able to deal with it. But that's not what we're here in this world for. What we're here in this world for is to work hard. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not here to make our jobs, our lives easier. At every single stage, we have to have a bechira, we have a choice to go right, to do good, or to do bad. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to have that choice. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not take us this way and change the choices. But there's another thing that we see. We see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't put somebody in a situation that he cannot handle. If he can't handle the situation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu won't put him in there. We see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu, every single situation, similar to what we just said before, HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts a person in a situation, it means that we can handle it. If not, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu won't put us in that situation. And if that's true, then alachat kama vechama, all the more so, we have to be careful that we shouldn't put ourselves in a situation that will be difficult for us to handle. If we know that this is where the boundary is, where I might slip, don't go close. That's where the edge is, the cliff. Chas v'chalila, we shouldn't fall. Person, when he stands near a cliff, he's standing carefully. He doesn't want to, chas v'chalila, trip and fall. You stand a little bit further back. That's how a person should approach his life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't take us in a way that's going to be difficult in order for us to want to turn back to Mitzrayim, because we couldn't handle it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts us only in things that we can handle. That's how the way we should act. These are two beautiful messages that we learned in the beginning of Parashat Beshalach. 2 weeks ago and last week we discussed what is it that is required in order to split property, to split ownership on something. People own a car in partners and they want to divide it. And specifically 2 weeks ago we spoke about two brothers that inherited a house, a large house in Brooklyn, and one brother wanted to divide the house into two because it'll still leave them a regular size house of Brooklyn for each of them. And we said that in that specific situation you would not be able to divide the house with putting a wall on pi halacha, and nobody can force each other to do so. So they turn to their Rav, and the question is, what should you do now? We have a house, we want to use it, and we're fighting over it. What do we do? The Gemara in Masechet Bava Batra, and Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, says, Rav Yehuda Amar, it dina de good or igud. There is a din called you should buy or I should buy. What does that mean? One second. And Rav Nachman says, let dina de good or igud. There is no such concept. So what do? You split the times of usage. That's what Rav Nachman holds. You split the time. Okay, so you live in this house for a year, I'll live in the house for a year. Or you live in the house for a year, and then the second year you'll pay rent, and then the third year you won't pay rent, or we'll figure it out. That's what Rav Nachman held. We don't hold like Rav Nachman, we hold like Rabbi Yehuda. It dina de good or igud. It's a buyout option. What is the translation of good or igud? There's a machloket between the mefarshim. Rashi explains it means kotz, set a price. Set a price and I'll buy, or I'll set a price and you buy. Buy out this house, buy out my portion, or I'll buy out your portion. And set a price. Pick a price. What's your price? I'll buy it. Or I'll give you a price, you buy it off me. That's how Rashi explains. Rabbeinu Gershom, on the other hand, says, no. It means, good means buy, meshoch, pull. Pull to yourself, acquire to yourself. And therefore, the Rabbeinu Gershom says that what you need to do is, you go to Bet Din and you bring an evaluator, somebody that will evaluate the worth of the property, and that's what you should do. And based on the value of the property, we will divide. Or if it's a car, you divide the value of the car, and that's how that's how the buyout option should work. This is the price, a car, $25,000. You pay half, or I'll pay the half, and then I'll own this car. That's how it is with the house. The house is worth $1 million. Either give me 500 or you give me 500, based on what the actual value of the house is. The Ramban and also Tosafot and Bava Batra and Daf Yud Gimel, and it's not a Ramban, it's a Teshuvah miyucheset la Ramban. It's really the Rashba. It's in Teshuvot miyuchesot to the Ramban in Siman Mem Gimel. Both of them, Tosafot and the Rashba, they say there's a machloket between the Rishonim based on the two definitions of this word gud or igud, whether or not I can set up any price that I want and even go much higher. For example, one of the brothers really wanted the house. He says to his brother, I am willing to pay, the house is $1 million, I'm willing to pay to evaluate the house as $1,500,000. I'll give you $750,000. Get out. Or you give me $750,000. The halacha is, according to Rashi, because he said that the definition of the word good means set up a price, you could go ahead and do that. Also, the Rosh held like this, the Rambam held like this, and halacha and Shulchan Aruch, that's the halacha. On the other hand, Rabbeinu Gershom, the Geonim, and Rabbeinu Yeshaya, the Rid, Rabbi Yeshaya Mitrani, they held, no, the definition means to acquire. It doesn't say anything about setting up a price. What you need to do is evaluate it, and based on the evaluation, that's the price. And they say, if not, then there's going to be one brother who's wealthier than the other brother. He's going to raise the price, and the other one is not going to be able to buy the house, but he really wants the house. So it's not fair. You have to be an equal playing field. That's the machloket. But the halacha says, in the second Shulchan Aruch, and Siman Kuf Ayin Aleph, and Seif Chet, the Shulchan Aruch says the halacha is that we don't care about the value. You can set up the price. The one thing you cannot do is you cannot lower the price. What do we mean? If one of the brothers is really struggling financially, the other brother can afford the house. He has a lot of money. Now, we said the house is worth $1 million. He's going to go ahead and say, listen, let's set the price at $750, and I'm going to give you half of $750. Now the brother is going to lose. Either you buy or I'll buy. We're talking about a loss for the other brother. He knows that his brother can't afford it, so he's lowering the price. And because his brother can't afford it, he's going to get it at a cheap price. That we're not letting you do. That's the halacha. So, you're allowed to raise the price, but you cannot lower the price. There's another requirement. The question is, do they both need to have the ability to pay? The Rif brings a machloket, and he says some opinions say you need to have the ability to pay. Both parties, if they cannot both afford it, you cannot say good or good. But he says we don't hold like that. We only care that the person demanding this good or good, who's speaking up and he's saying, I wanna buy out, he has to have the ability to buy it. But if he doesn't have, he cannot say this. And therefore, in the case of these brothers, if the brother that's demanding, what he can do is, he wants to split. We can't split. What he can do is, he can demand to buy out. If he has the right amount of money, he can set it up at any price and demand to buy out. He says, I want to buy out the property, and I'll set up any price, but he cannot lower the price. And if he has the right, we look, can he actually buy it right now? If he can, then the brother has a choice. Pass or buy. If he says pass, then the brother has to buy it, and if he wants to buy it, then he has to pay the value that his brother set up originally for this house. And that's what they should do. Good or good.